Our next speakers are another double team. Donna Goddard and Tayla Ericksen are a mother and daughter. Donna is an avid amateur photographer, and Tayla, look out, has a black belt in Taekwondo. Please make them very welcome, Donna and Tayla.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here. My name's Donna Goddard. I am and this is Tayla Ericksen, my daughter. I'm the president of PFLAG Brisbane and the national spokesperson for PFLAG. And Tayla is the youngest member of PFLAG Brisbane. So, just before we jump into our stories tonight, I just would like to run through briefly what PFLAG is and what we do. Fundamentally, we do three things. We do support, we educate, and we advocate. Tonight, we're here to talk a little bit about our stories. And we're really just going, I guess, back to the beginning. So it's a small part.
So I'm Tayla. I have a gay brother who's about 1 year older than me. He came out to me when I was about 13 years old. At that point, my family didn't really talk about gay people. I didn't know anyone who was gay, so as you can imagine, it came as a bit of a shock to me that my brother liked men. I didn't really take that very well when I was 13. I didn't react very well, and consequently, my brother and I didn't have a conversation about his sexuality for another 3 or 4 years. During that time, I felt pretty isolated about dealing with it. Not only was I sworn to secrecy by my brother, but even if I wasn't, I had no idea how to express what I was feeling or what I was processing. I never would have considered myself a homophobe, but there was always this little part of me that felt a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that my brother was gay. And then, I never had any problems with gay people, but I didn't want my brother to be one. During that time, I never really sought out any education. I never accessed any resources. We didn't talk about it at school. Kids, as they do, get bullied and called gay all the time. So I wasn't going to be the one to out my brother and have him be the one being teased and called gay. So I had this idea in my head that if we didn't talk about it, that maybe his feelings would change and maybe it would go away. But as we all know, it doesn't really work like that. I must have been about 17, the next time we had a conversation about it. I worked up the courage while we were walking home from school one day to ask him if he liked any boys. And during that conversation, I learned that not only did my brother and I have a crush on the same boy, but I felt a sense of fulfillment in our relationship that I'd never experienced before. A little while after that, my brother came out to my mother and to the rest of my family, and that kind of kick-started the rest of the process for us and for our whole family.
So when my son first came out to me, I guess I'd suspected for a little while that he was gay, as some parents do, not all, some do. And I was very worried about him, and I was concerned about how he was dealing with it, and was he okay? And because I didn't feel like I could talk to him about it, I didn't know how to talk to him about it. So finally when he came out, the first thing I felt was a sense of relief. Oh, thank God, he's okay. He's okay. And then I started to think about the rest of the world and what's out there. And I started to think about telling family and friends, and how would I deal with that? How would I deal with those conversations? And how would I deal with telling them these things? And I didn't particularly feel equipped to do that. I didn't know how to handle a conversation because I didn't know enough about it. I didn't understand it. So I decided to start educating myself. So I went online, as you do when you first start educating yourself, go straight to Google. Well, that's me, I'm an IT person. So I went to Google, and what came up eventually was a PFLAG website. And so that's where I turned. I went to my very first PFLAG meeting, and I sat and listened to, and really I went with the sense of, I don't need support, but I'll go and see if they need some help. So I went in and not really realising that I would be you know, that I would be actually maybe feeling emotion when I went in there, but I did. I sat and listened to everybody's stories, and every one of them, regardless of whether they were struggling with coming to terms with their son or daughter's sexual or gender identity, no matter whether they were accepting and just fighting and railing against the world that wouldn't accept their child, everything that they said, there was something in what they said that I could relate to. I walked away from that first meeting thinking, these are my people. I had found my niche.
That was my first P-Flag meeting as well, and that was a really pinnacle moment for me and my understanding of LGBT issues. And we had a guest speaker that day. His name was Paul Martin. He's a psychologist who deals specifically with LGBT people. And he talked about this thing called internalized homophobia. And as he was explaining what it was just like he was ticking all the boxes in my head about everything that I was feeling. So the way I remember that he explained it was that, you know, it's something we all have to different degrees. And we're all brought up in this society where heterosexuality is the norm, and everywhere you look, there's heterosexual couples. And so when you see something different, i.e. like my brother holding hands with a boy for the first time, it can be confronting and it can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And he said that's not something you have to feel guilty about, and what you have to do is recognize that's just my internalized homophobia, and you just acknowledge it and recognize it and you put it aside and you move on. And that's what I did, and I finally understood and could recognize what my feelings were. And not only that, but I felt equipped to be able to confidently vocalize my feelings and explain that to the people around me and friends who were going through the same sort of thing. And I felt so fortunate to have access to that kind of education. And not only that, but a mother who wanted to educate herself as much as I did.
So as parents, I guess we want to protect our child. That's what we want to do the most. So when my son came out, and I realised that the world wasn't necessarily geared for him, and it wasn't necessarily going to treat him very well. So there were two things I could do. I could change him or I could change the world. And I knew I couldn't change him. So I guess I figured I had to change the world. And that sounds silly, right? But what I came up with is that the way to change the world is through education. And the best way that we can educate is to share our stories. So that's what we're doing here tonight. What we're all doing here tonight is sharing our stories, and hopefully through that, educating and changing the world one conversation at a time. So if you're out there tonight or somewhere out there thinking about a loved one that has recently come out to you,
Not so recently.
I guess we'd like to say one thing. We'd like to say, love them unconditionally.
And to educate yourself.
Thank you.